We cannot hear you. Can you please unmute yourself? I will unmute you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, can you now?
Okay.
Yes, we can.
So let's move on to the 18 HIPAA identifiers. So we have name, and it can be only the initials. They are enough to identify a patient. Dates, like a date of birth, admission date, discharge, date of death, and etc. Anything that is linked to the patient. Address, it can be a past address, a present address, any address. Telephone numbers, fax numbers, email addresses, social security numbers, even the last four numbers, that can be an identifier. Medical record number. There are a lot of people, they know this by MRN or MRI. Health and plan beneficiary number, an account number, certificate or license number, any serial number, web URL, IP address, finger or voice print, photographic image, any other characteristics that could uniquely identify the individual. And guess what? Language too. So if you are having a patient that is Arabic, let's say that you were interpreting over the phone, now that's the modality, or using BRI, you're taking notes. You have to write down, possible, he is calling to make a payment. He's gonna give you the account number. They know that you are Arabic because it's on the records. And so all of that can identify the patient. So this is something to comply, is something that is hand-to-hand technology and as humans. As an interpreter, why is so important for us to know about HIPAA? Who has to comply? Well, according to HIPAA, they said any organization that provides products or services in the healthcare industry. So we are interpreting for them, yeah? Even though you are not employed directly to a hospital, if you do it through an agency, you are considered a business associate. And a business associate, according to HIPAA, is defined as any organization or person, listen to that, working in association with or providing services to a covered entity who handles or discloses PHI. So when the agency calls us and say, Ingrid, you have an appointment, or would you like to take an appointment to go to Intermountain Healthcare in Murray at the oncology clinic, and it's at this time. All of that is non-HIPAA, right? But then I need to know who I'm going to interpret for, so I get the name. Some agencies, they share date of birth, of course, the language, right? And so that's already involving me as a business associate to comply with HIPAA. So there are a couple of things that we need to know. Who has to comply and how can you comply with this? So if you work for the hospital directly, you are a member of the workforce. So they have to give you the training. But if you are working for the agency and the agency doesn't control your schedule, you have to comply with the training for HIPAA. One exception, when the patient brings their own interpreter, a friend, a family member, you know, they don't have to comply with HIPAA. So we, the interpreters, we have to uphold the privacy rule through the relationship with the business associate, and we have to obey. Any interpreter, it doesn't matter if it's part-time, full-time, a volunteer, or any interpreter or the control of the covered entity, they have to provide the training. But as I'm telling you, an ad hoc interpreter, somebody, let's say, even somebody, I don't know if you have been in the waiting room and they don't have an interpreter and an Arabic patient shows, and maybe they can ask you, you know, some people they do, hey, can you help me to interpret for this patient? You are not uphold to comply with HIPAA at that moment. But if the agency is sending you, you have to get your own training. And that's why you are here, and I'm so glad. All right. Besides HIPAA, we already have the ethical principle of confidentiality. We don't disclose any private or any information during our assignments or after, because we are professionals, right? But if you are receiving any PHI, you must have compliance with HIPAA. And what are you doing? What are you doing with your agenda? What are you doing with your electronic devices? How do you keep those invoices? Do you print them? Are they in a safe place? Are they under lock? If anybody can see them. Where are you leaving your notes? If you are taking notes. Even in person, I have my little booklet, my little thingy that I take with me, because for names, for addresses, or numbers, or some other medications and stuff like that, I like to be able to write them down. And so where are we keeping all of those note takings? Are we destroying them, leaving them in the trash can, leaving them on a desk? I don't know if you're familiar with one interpreter that he left his briefcase in his car. They opened his car, they burglarized his car, and they took the briefcase, and he had a lot of personal information there. And he was fined because he was supposed to have like a lock or a password or something to secure that information, but he didn't have it. So it is important for us to be careful when and where and how are we sharing and keeping all of this information that they have shared. Look at this graphic. Improper disposal of incidents. In 2018, we had 10 people. They just put their notes or their invoices in the trash can, and somebody was able to get a hold of them and use them. And in 2019, 6 cases, so 4 less, but it's still, So I want you to think and to have a reflection. What are you doing with all of this information? Where are you keeping all of this? And I have another example about where do I keep my invoices. So this interpreter was a Vietnamese interpreter, and she left the invoice after the assignment on her desk. She had a little boy, and his friend came to play video games, which was next to this desk. The little boy was able to see the invoice, to read the information, and guess what? It was about his mom. She went to the oncology center, and he went home and he went to ask mom, Mom, what did you do today? Nothing. No, what did you do today? And he told her, you went to see a doctor, and I don't know what kind of doctor, but this is the name. And why are you going to see the doctor? Are you okay? And guess what? They find out that the interpreter disclosed that information. She didn't mean to, but she didn't take the measures to keep all that information in a safe place. So we can see here, look at this location of breach PHI. The biggest line, number 9, we have 2, network server and email. If you are receiving your assignments by email, what measurements do you have to keep that information safe? Desktop computer, 4, laptop, 1, and so and so. Okay, so how can we create our own security plan? Where do I start? Anybody has any idea?
Get an insurance?
Get insurance? Well, we have insurance for errors and omissions, but that doesn't cover really the HIPAA, because HIPAA means if you want, you have to show that you have a plan. So to start, just answer to those questions when you have time. What do I want to protect? All the PHI. Who do I want to protect it from? From anybody. Once my husband, I have my phone and I have a password, face recognition, I have a code and everything, right? And once he said, I don't know why you have so many security layers for your phone. What are you hiding? And I said, I'm hiding a lot of information. I'm sorry. But I don't want to be one day fined and sanctioned for something, no? So, and he understands now, you know, but it's hard sometimes for people to understand what we do and why we do things. So how bad are the consequences if I fail to protect all of those PHI information that I have? Do you know? What are the consequences? And if you don't know, it's okay. We're going to review them. In How likely is that I will need to protect it? We all need to protect it. It doesn't matter if it's just the date of birth, the name, and the language, just with one. One of those 18 identifiers, that's enough to violate HIPAA if we don't protect it. And how much trouble I'm willing to go through to try to prevent potential consequences? Well, it is important to pay attention because none of us are making a lot of money, and the fines can be very, very heavy on us. And some institutions, they don't give you more work, and we have to avoid problems, right? So if you want, we can copy, and I can send you this link. It's the compliance group, a HIPAA checklist quiz that you can take and make sure that you're in compliance with HIPAA. All right, I can put
Yes, please add it to the WhatsApp group, please.
Yeah.
Can you put it on the chat box so we can
Yes.
Can you put it on the chat right now? Can you put it on the chat?
I cannot put it because I don't have the presentation. If you copy paste it, please.
Okay, during the, oh, I got into something here that I didn't mean to. So yes, I'll paste it and I'll put it for you guys, no problem. And here is another security plan that you can go through. It's a security plan that helps you identify what will happen if things that you value and determine that you need to protect. That's another security plan that you can go through, and I'll paste it over there in the chat before we leave today. So the programs and the softwares, are your files encrypted? This other website, Tom's Guide, is a really good website. He is a very good guy that is going to teach you slowly how to encrypt your files. So all those invoices that you're receiving, you need to have an encryption. It's very important. But let's move to our Google account. How many of you have Google accounts? I do have a Google account. Well, guess what? If you are using your Google account without something that is called G Suite HIPAA Business Associate Amendment, you can be found in violation of HIPAA. So you can go to the Google website and ask them to add the G Suite HIPAA Business Associate Amendment. The price is $5 to $50 a year. So it's not that much. I pay the one that is $5, but you have to sign the agreement. They won't do it automatically. So you have to ask for what is called the G Suite or what is called the Business Associate Agreement, BAA. And you need to sign it and send it back to them, and you can pay the $5, okay? Otherwise, Google won't be responsible. And if they hacked their emails, you can be found in violation of HIPAA, okay? And we don't want that. So another thing that is important, how many of you have the confidentiality notice in your email? It is important to add that if you don't have it. This is mine. I'm giving you this sample, but you can find them online. So mine, it says, this electronic mail message and any attachment are confidential, and so on. You can read the rest. And if you want a copy of this one, I can send that to you too. This is important that all our emails, I don't know how many invoices and how you communicate with courts or with agencies, but it's something that we must have in our emails, okay? So how many of you have this notice already? Nobody? Okay, so start thinking about it, okay? Well, now let's move into what happens if I violate HIPAA. Well, do you know that as soon as you are given the assignment, they have an audit trail. They know exactly who, when, at what time, what date, everything was giving that information to you. It's so easy for them to audit and to check where was the failure. After that, they can do a disciplinary action the first time. Usually the agencies that are overseeing the Office of Civil Rights, they do a disciplinary action. They said, okay, you have to have a plan to correct, a correction plan is called, to correct all of this. And you have to show us everything that you have done to encrypt, to keep the files, what apps are you using, everything, and you have to show them. And they will keep track of you for about 1 to 2 years, okay? But there are also civil penalties. So an accidental disclosure can be a fine of $100 and is only considered a violation. So violation is the lower of the charges in court, right? But let's say that we continue having some problems that we don't really look up for security plans or encryption or making sure that our Google account is safe. We can face criminal penalties. So even if you didn't do it because you want to trade that information for money, but in the case of this guy that they burglarized his car and they took his portfolio and he had all of this information, the person that stole the stuff from him went and misused that information. And he was fined with $50,000 and 1 year in jail.
Interesting.
Yes, false pretenses. Let's say that you left your notes about a billing account and somebody saw and stole the credit card and used that information because you disposed that in your trash can. If they find how that information got to that people's hand, they can charge you with false pretenses. And it carries about $100,000 in fines and up to 5 years in jail. So if we were having the intention to sell that information, that's a little different. It may happen, you know, that's $250,000 and 10 years in jail. So think about it, you know, when must interpreter disclose PHI and where do we keep all of this information is so important, guys. It's so, so important because we can risk, I don't make that much money to pay that much. And if you think that your insurance is going to cover, you can ask your agent, but check and see what they want to say. They're gonna make sure that you have everything in order and organized to comply with HIPAA, okay? So when can we disclose personal health information? Well, when the individual is requesting access to, so we can do it, we're helping over the phone, we have the other LEP on the line and we have the representative. So we are just the bridge, right? We don't use that information. We don't have a word to say, we're just interpreting. Also, when the health department is conducting an investigation or review of an action, so that's when we can also reveal PHI. Otherwise, we're not supposed to. So have you interpreted the NPP? Do you know what is NPP?
No.
This is the notice of privacy. Every time that we go to an appointment, many patients, the first thing is sign here to authorize so we can give you treatment. And sign here because this is the privacy notice. So how many of you have seen the privacy notice in your own language? Not too many. I have seen it in Spanish because I think it's the most common language. But when they said, oh, just read this to them, it's a long page and it's legal. And if the signature is going to be there, it's really legal. So I usually said, it's going to take a while for me to site translate this. Would you like to summarize? And I'll be happy to interpret. And so it's on them because I don't want to summarize anything. And I'm not sure how many of us are very familiar with that form. And it's a really long form and is a legal document. So site translate, I wouldn't recommend that, you know. Well, guys, for the patient care and safety, let's comply with HIPAA. And every time that you are going to work with an agency, make sure that you have the HIPAA written information. There is a paper that you have to sign with the agency, or if you are an owner of an agency, make sure that you have that to comply with HIPAA, okay? Protect yourself. And thank you so much for taking the time to listen to my presentation. Anybody has questions?
Thank you very much, Ingrid. It was a great presentation and
No,
a lot of new information we didn't know. I don't know, anybody else need to ask, or I'm gonna stop the recording now.